Good evening. Welcome to Front Up. My name's Kim Corcoran, and this evening I'd like to introduce two Nantucket merchants who are long-term seasonal residents who have friendship, business, and travel in common. They have created a unique lifestyle which draws them back year after year to Nantucket. And even though they spend over half of the year here, they experience the island in two very different ways. I'd like to introduce Judy Hill, and she is found every day at Hills of Nantucket down in town, and Mark Donato, who can be found in Sconset at the Sconset Market. Judy, I'd like to begin with you, if I may, and ask, how did you come to Nantucket?
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome.
It basically all started back in 1977 when my husband's artwork, we were living in Hawaii, was found by .NET Hyde, a lovely couple that lived here on Nantucket, and brought my husband's work to the island. We arrived in 1978 as your typical tourist visiting the island, and ended up opening our own gallery here in 1979. And it's history since then, but we have remained seasonal residents and merchants here on the island.
And Mark, I believe you've come from a different part of the world.
I originally came from Idaho, and I came with an overnight bag, planned on staying 1 week stay, and I never left. So it's been now 17 years for myself also.
And because you are all seasonal residents and have your businesses here, I think we'd really love to know what you do off-season and where you reside. And we have a lot in common with these two tonight, which you will find out during the evening. Judy, I believe you are in Carmel.
We're in Carmel during the winter months, and here, of course, in the summer. My husband and I live in Big Sur, Carmel, California, in a wonderful canyon. It's basically a retreat, and my husband works there painting, and we collaborate on designs and work for our store here. So we're there for just basically the winter months in Nantucket, at least 6 months out of the year.
Now, I've had the good fortune of visiting Judy and Greg up in the Big Sur area, and I love their home because it is unique in that it has no electricity.
This is true, no electricity, but we have gravity flow water, propane, and solar, and it is just a very quiet place to go after a long season here on the island. And Mark lives in Carmel Village, down below us, about 18 miles away, and Mark can tell you about his winter abode.
Well, it's a little more urban lifestyle. I do have electricity and running water, I'm happy to say, and I live in the village of Carmel, which I always consider the Nantucket on the west coast, if there is one, a small village with no traffic lights and keeps the same town atmosphere as we do here.
Good. Now, in between times, I know you both do quite a bit of travel, and Judy, if you wouldn't mind telling us how that all began, I find that very interesting.
Well, it began when I was 19 years old, and I married my husband 30 years ago, and he took me to Europe for a 4-month honeymoon, and it basically hasn't stopped since then. We're about 80 countries of traveling. We've had a wonderful time, and Nantucket has allowed us to, because it's seasonal, still have our cake and eat it too, basically, and we've really enjoyed it, and we always come back.
And I know, Mark, you do extensive travel as well.
I do have a shorter season being in Sconset, so I'm actually only open about 4 months a year, which leaves the rest of the year for free time and travel. And we have been involved in the travel book business for a number of years, and the specialty's been Southern African countries. So for the last 10 years, I've been living in Southern Africa. I shoot the photographs, and it's been a wonderful lifestyle, I found.
Yes, I'd say so. It's pretty nice, but you keep coming back and coming back. Judy, I know that you've traveled Argentina, Chile last year. Do you have a favorite spot? I know that's a tough one.
That's a tough one. Actually, one of my favorite spots is just seeing America, which we've driven across countless times, and it is an experience I find so many Americans do not take the advantage of doing. I love world travel. I must say Africa is a real soft spot for my husband and I. We really do enjoy it. But I would say there isn't a favorite spot, and there's many that we haven't even touched on yet.
Good answer, Judy. And when you do travel, Greg, I presume, does a lot of his artwork.
Well, most of our traveling is based around Greg going going off, and sometimes he wants to paint, sometimes he doesn't. And usually, if he's very inspired, he does a little work while we're traveling and then creates an exhibit here on Nantucket at his gallery through our travels. So a lot of wonderful patrons have often said, we may never get there, but we were able to go there through Greg and his artwork, which has been fun and very fun for me because I always get to go along. And we've had a lot of fun with Mark because through the years, occasionally we've met up in foreign countries also. And our last was a wonderful expedition in Africa. And,
which made me very nervous because I know both of you, and I was back home here going, they're out of touch, I don't know where they are.
We were riding elephants in Botswana together. So
sounds exotic and wonderful, my goodness. And Mark, I know you take a lot of photographs. Do you really like to photograph the people, the animals, the landscapes that you see? Or
well, actually, I do more of it from a point of view of a commercial thing. It's for travel books, and therefore it's not that exciting or artistic. I'd like to say it was, but it's they're looking for a certain genre for that type of thing, and that's what I shoot. So
yes,
and he's very good at it.
Well, that there is no doubt. Now, on Nantucket, because you are in town and you're in Sconset, they're, to me, totally different worlds in the summertime, and I'd love to have your read on that. And I'm just going to open this up to both of you because this is the first time really we've spoken of it. So I'm going to give it to you two. And you can just chat back and forth on that one.
Mark and I have known each other for almost 20 years, and his life on Nantucket and Sconset is extremely different than my life in town. It's very fast-paced, very exciting during the height of the season, and I love it. I like people, and if you're not a people person, believe me, it is not the place to be during the season. And in the spring and in the fall, it's much more relaxed, and we enjoy it. But I know that the lifestyle that goes on in downtown Nantucket is totally different than a more relaxed lifestyle that Mark has out at Sconset Market.
But Mark, I know it's very busy in Sconset in the summer
busy
as well.
At my business, the market, but the Sconset lifestyle is definitely a slower pace, and it's enjoyable, and it's why I like Sconset. And it's the people in Sconset and the people in Nantucket seem to be at two different ends of the things. Just recently, we've relaxed the visa requirements, so we'd like more Nantucketers to come visit us out there.
So you are taking those now, eh?
Absolutely.
Oh gosh. Excuse me. When you're on Nantucket, do you have any free time at all? And now we will be breaking. We'll be right back. Back to Front Up. And I have to tell you, this is my first time out as being host, and it's not easy, but it's a lot of fun. Back to Mark and Judy. We were discussing your lives on Nantucket and the differences between Sconset and Nantucket town. And I know that you've both been so generous to community, and you both have been very involved in community in different organizations, different fundraisers. And first of all, I'd like to thank you all for that. But what makes you keep coming back to Nantucket? I mean, it sounds like you all have such exotic lives out there in California and your travels. Mark?
Well, I'm from a small town in Idaho originally, and the small town atmosphere that I experience here is probably what I love, what I fell in love with to begin with, and why I keep coming back. I'll never forget when I first came, within 1 week's time, I met the police chief, the fire chief gave me a wave, and I didn't learn until later that he gives everyone a wave, but anyway, and I just love that feeling of it, and the camaraderie, especially in Sconset, where everyone's at the post office. When you go there, 4 out of the 5 people that are there and meeting, and possibly at the market on an evening stroll in the village for an ice cream cone or something. That's probably what keeps bringing me back.
Judy?
Similar. Quality of life, which I know is quite an issue these days with everyone on the island. Greg and I have traveled for years, and we have never found any place else in the world, not just in America, that we feel so at home. We also now have a tremendous kind of feeling of responsibility here for the community. You just don't find Nantuckets around, and we enjoy it. my husband has received a lot of inspiration living here. I have myself. I love my business, my friends, which are here by Wing tonight, but it is just a very special place, and I think a lot of people look for some place like this, and we were fortunate enough 20 years ago to stumble upon it by accident and have been able to not only enjoy our life here, but be able to feel a part of the community, to be able to feel that we do things, when we do something here, it counts. It's just not lost in the shuffle. And Kim has been very inspirational for me in that respect, and it's just a wonderful place to live.
I slipped your bill for that one.
It's a very small town, and I know that is hard for a lot of people. I'm a Southern California native, and I came from a big city, and I find this absolutely a fabulous place to live.
You also find that community spirit, I know, West Coast as well, and I think that probably was exemplified this winter when you all had your El Nino disaster, if you will. And I know we've all read about it on Nantucket, but we didn't experience it. And oftentimes when we're on island, we get so caught up in what we're doing, we kind of forget what's happening out there in the rest of the world. And if you all would kind of give us an account of how you experienced it, because I know, Judy, you were right in it, and Mark, you came to the rescue, I think.
It's true.
Being in it, you should take the lead
Well,
here.
I must say, it was a national disaster. I have been through many hurricanes here on Nantucket, and this was intense. We were basically cut off for 2.5 weeks, and if it hadn't been for someone like Mark, who airlifted in food to us, we would have had some problems surviving. And
Highway 1 went
the highway totally washed away. It was something no one expected, although they said it might happen. But when you see a major California highway wash away in front of you and having to hike 12 miles into your home, you get the real feeling of a disaster. And the community, which there's very few people that live in our canyon, pulled together. I have seen that happen here on Nantucket when we've had to board up for hurricanes and get through a season of bad weather. But it was, I think, something that none of us were expecting to be quite as intense as it was.
Now, when you were up in the canyon, and Judy lives way up in the canyon, and you were down in Carmel, were you experiencing the same disastrous results of this storm?
We were experiencing the same deluge of rain that was going on, but no, luckily we were not. We were cut off, and residents had to show their licenses in order to be allowed into neighborhoods and things like that. I should qualify when it says that I airlifted food in. It was a National Guard thing that was going on, but there was some radio communication, and some being able to communicate with them. They told us about their neighbors that were all in trouble, and there was no food or water down there that was drinkable. And so I was loading helicopters at this end while they were unloading them at that end. And it was a community effort where everybody joined in. It was actually rather exciting if it hadn't been so wet.
I was going to say.
Rain, rain, rain.
And meanwhile, we were over here in a very mild winter on Nantucket, thinking of you all, I might add. And then, Judy, to escape the rains, you and Greg went to Sedona, I believe.
We convoyed out and went over to Sedona for 3 weeks, which was very nice. My husband is an artist, and a lot of inspiration in art over there, different color, different light, and it was a nice change for us. We sort of dried out and put our life back together a bit, and we're fortunate enough to have a place to go to, and then returned, of course, to Carmel, and things are being patched up right now. It's pretty much back to normal.
I was going to
it
ask,
was
you've had communications,
quite
I'm
an
sure.
experience, and Mark was in town and was always there to help us, which was wonderful when you are totally cut off. And it was a great experience, but fortunately no one died, no one was terribly injured, but quite exciting.
I'd say. Well,
Quite
it
exciting.
makes
Was
my
indeed.
winter pale, I'll tell you. And now that you're back on Nantucket, how do you foresee the season? Do you have any read yet? I know that you've only been back for a little bit, but
Well, my read from talking and reading the Inquirer Mirror is that it's going to be a banner year. I'm really looking forward to it and hopeful. Being one of the local merchants that makes their living in a short period of time, you have to have a good year in order to live our lifestyle. So I see all signs are all systems go.
good. Sounds good to me. Thank you. We'll be right back after these messages. And before we go this evening, I would like to present these lovely flowers that actually Judy grew within that disaster in Carmel and brought back on the plane these beautiful orchids that she did grow. And so from all disasters comes something beautiful. And we're really looking forward to a wonderful summer out in Sconset, out in town. And I can't wait after this season to get together with you all again and find out how our Sconset life and how our town life really compared. So thank you both for being here. Really,
Thank you for
really
having us.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Had a great
Thank
time.
you, and good night.